WNST, tap all the residue of our jet lag and certainly dust off that game film and throw it away, throw it right into the Atlantic Ocean or the River Thames from London. The Steelers may feel the same way about their efforts, certainly trying to stop the run of the the Chicago Bears, I should say, last weekend. Bill Hillgrove is the longtime play-by-play broadcaster for the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as the University of Pittsburgh. He now joins us from high on a hill with the ins and out up there in Pittsburgh, where they have the same knee issues and brand issues and Villanueva and Ben Roethlisberger. It is a very crazy week here for the intersection of sports and politics, correct, Bill?
Well, it'd be great to get back to football.
Well, yeah. I mean, and we're going to get back to football.
Really and truly, Mike Tomlin handled himself, I thought, very well at his news conference today, where he basically explained that the Steelers have been 100% on the anthem. And he detected on Saturday that there might be some reaction within his squad of the comments that were made in Alabama by our president. And so he nipped it in the bud. He said, we're not going out and show a divided team.
Well, and then the Villanueva thing happened, obviously accidentally. What a strange set of circumstances. The Ben Roethlisberger has to apologize for not being on the field, and Villanueva wanted to be back in the locker room. I think for all the coaches in the league, Bill, and you've been doing this a long time, I've been doing it a long time, this is a handful for 32 locker rooms because this is going to wreck a locker room or two. You just got to make sure it's not yours, right?
Exactly, and I think that's what Tomlin did. He's taken a lot of heat for it, I imagine, the social media being what it is. But if I know Mike, he doesn't pay attention to people's perception. He worries about his football team. He worries about winning games. And, I don't think he knew that Big Al went out and stood at the end of the tunnel. And Big Al basically apologized for the way he did it. He has nothing to apologize for. He served this country. He ducked bullets in Afghanistan probably more than once. I think he had 3 hitches over there. And, he has a right to feel the way he does. So I think Tomlin, in order to keep the team, 100%, just said, we're staying in the tunnel. And they did. Oh, a couple of coaches went out. Tomlin was out. But that's a personal thing. That's not, to be construed as being divisive.
Well, we'll get to the off-the-field stuff. Let's get on to the field here, Bill. I mean, we went over to London, and the Ravens took the first knee of the day at 9:30 and then never really got up at all. I mean, to look up and see it 44-0, despite the time change and the challenges, Jacksonville had the same challenges as well. A very, very different version of the Ravens without Marshall Yanda, without Brandon Williams last week. Now they're going to be without Brent Urban to the Liz Frank injury. We got a little body bag thing going on here, man. We're 17, 18, 19 guys deep now into injuries. It's very, very difficult, but this is the biggest game of the year, and I think for both of these teams, that disappointment of last weekend is going to probably serve them well during practice time this week.
I think so. I think two teams will be not only energetic, but also almost desperate. The Steelers don't feel that they should have lost to Chicago, but we saw them do that. And there are many reasons why they did, including the inability to stop the outside zone run, which I know Baltimore doesn't have eye-popping rushing numbers, but they have shown the capability to run that scheme with great success in the past. So I think the Steelers expect that on Sunday.
As far as the leakiness of the defense, what do you attribute that to, Bill?
Well, I hadn't thought of it. It's just the way the pendulum goes. I see that the Ravens have signed some people on the defensive side of the ball and paid a lot of money for them, and they feel that that's what they have to invest in. But, we all know you need balance. Your offense has to help your defense and vice versa. And I thought on Sunday that the offense did not play well enough to help that defense that had its struggles with the run in the first half and certainly in overtime.
Well, this certainly hasn't been the best start of a campaign for Ben Roethlisberger or Le'Veon Bell at this point. I would say Bell would be the most significant guy because he was a real competitive mismatch 2 years ago. And running backs, that doesn't last long, and you know that usually. But everybody in Pittsburgh has said that this has looked like a different version of Le'Veon Bell, that he doesn't look like the old version of himself.
Well, he didn't take a snap in camp or in the preseason. So he's just now rounding into football shape. I thought I saw a big step forward in the second game against Minnesota. I saw that skip step, and I thought it continued this week. It wasn't a bad average. When you average 4 yards a carry, you give your team a win on first down. So I don't think he's the problem. Ben has to play better on the road than he has shown in the past. He's the one who knows it. He fell on the sword after the game. He said, hey, this one's on me. So it'll be interesting to see how both of them respond. Martavis Bryant is still kind of, he's been out of football for over a year. So, he's going to show rust probably up until the midway point of the season. But when they get it all together, I think they're a pretty good team. And for them, they know it's got to start on Sunday. You can't fall a game behind Baltimore and vice versa.
Well, every time we see Shazier, he's running us crazy. Is he still the best player on defense over there? I mean, I know it's been tough to keep him on the field. Hayward, same thing. Just getting those guys out there and getting them healthy would be a pretty good place to start. As you pointed out, there have not been a lot of reps in August, and that could be said throughout the league, I think.
Yeah, well, maybe so. Maybe that's just the way the game is run now. Everybody says and is clamoring for 2 preseason games, but how do you cut anything back? The baseball season's too long. How do you pare that back? Hockey's too long. Now the Stanley Cup is well into June. How do you cut it back? Once pro sports gets to a certain length, it involves a lot of dollars to cut it back, and obviously they're not willing to do that.
He is Bill Hillgrove. He is the longtime voice of Pittsburgh Steelers football up in Pittsburgh. They coming down here on the back end of a loss to the Chicago Bears over the week. I guess the offense, we were expecting this sort of explosive thing. Do you still feel like it can get there? I mean, I think as long as you got Antonio Brown there, you have a mismatch in many, many games that can be exploited. And even on a day when things didn't go particularly well, he still had a pretty big day in Chicago.
Yeah, I think what they're expecting is for Bryant to take the top off the coverage and then therefore open up the middle of the field for Antonio, which is where he excels. Ben hasn't been hitting that long ball too well. I don't do the pro football focus. It's too darn expensive. But I bet his completion rate over 30 yards is not very good. It would be easy to figure out, but I don't have that kind of time.
Has he aged in that way for you? I mean, is he still moving like the guy he was? I mean, we've seen him look magical at various points. I guess for guys like him, for Eli Manning, for Joe Flacco at this point, the guys that are in that early 30 range or mid-30 range, they're all watching Tom Brady and sort of marvel at how he's doing this at 41. But a lot of these guys aren't going to be doing this at 41. And I know Ben, amongst some others, has talked about getting toward the end of the line here.
Well, he's concerned about the concussion thing, as well he should. My partner on the Pit Games, Bill Osborne, would be the first to jump on and promote his own company, but he's part of a thing called Visus, and they've invented the most concussion-proof helmet that the game has seen. And now they have to sell it to the NFL, colleges, and also to high schools. So we'll see how that plays out. Maybe Ben will put one of those on and extend his career. I still see him with that third eye. He feels pressure as well as anybody I ever saw. He just knows where to step in the pocket. No, is he going to break the pocket much? He did it a couple of times on Sunday, but he'd rather not.
Pittsburgh.
But I don't think Ben has really had that apparent diminishment of skills.
Pittsburgh-Baltimore is always something both of these teams get up for, but I think even more so this year where it's kind of apparent it's going to be one of these teams as the representative in January playing a playoff game because Cincinnati and Cleveland, they're not going to get there this year, which I think adds even more drama to this game where they're not going to see each other for, 9 weeks until we get into December.
Sure it is, and and you can pretty much determine since the whole division lost this past weekend that it's not going to produce a wild card. So you got to win it in order to advance, and I think both teams know that.
Bill, great to visit with you. I appreciate the time. Travel safely down here. Don't eat tourist crab cakes. We'll see you at the ballpark on Sunday.
Thanks. Take care.
You got it. Bill Hillgrove, longtime voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers, joining us here from the Football Network at WDVE up there where the Penguins are getting going and the Capitals are getting going. And, hey, the Orioles even went to Pittsburgh to play baseball this week. So we know that's we're going to have an off season here with the Orioles before it's all over with. We had a good time in London. I want to send a big shout out and a thank you to everyone who joined us. We had over 70 people join us and a bunch of folks that came over on Saturday, including our pal Leonard Raskin, amongst some others. We had some expats over there who live in London who are Ravens fans who joined us, and we did our big sky march across the River Thames over to the O2 Arena. We had a beautiful time right on up until the ball got kicked off, and I do appreciate all the love for my kitty. who passed on Thursday when my wife and I were in Europe. We're devastated, and we're trying to get through it, work our way through the loss of our beloved pet. I know I've received a lot of very, very kind notes from folks. I've written about her. You can go read about her up at WNST.net. And if you followed our life, our story out on Facebook or social media over the last 5 years, you know what an incredible source of love and warmth and healing power for my wife we've had here over the last 5 years. So it is a very, very rough time for us around here. Certainly a rough time for the Ravens. I think a rough time for America, a rough time for guys taking knees and not taking knees, and upset fans around here. And I've heard all sides. I agree with some of it. I disagree with a lot of it. I have been pretty forthright in my thoughts about free speech, and as a journalist and a guy who's had my press credentials taken away by the creep that owns the baseball team, who sort of acts in an authoritarian fashion, that I'm not down with the way this has gone down, and I do stand with anyone who wants to speak their mind in a free society and demonstrate peacefully and protest and dissent. That's what our country is built on. I believe that, and as a son of an immigrant, I believe that even more. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.